Who knew heartbreak could lead to such chaos? Kim Yujin muttered, staring at the cracked screen of her phone as the last echoes of her ex-boyfriend's voice faded into the dim atmosphere of the bustling Seoul cafe. Heart heavy, her fingers trembled slightly as she hurled insults at her ex, her heartache pouring out with every ringing tone of disappointment and anger. Exhausted by love's tumult, she slid into a corner booth, the aroma of coffee mingling with fresh pastries, a bitter reminder of joy now lost. Just then, she collided with the striking presence of Lee Minho, a rugged man with a knowing smile and eyes that seemed to promise escape from her turmoil. In a drunken haze of shared drinks and the reckless pursuit of distraction, they became lost in each other's fierce laughter and desperate honesty, sharing stories and unspoken scars. The night spun out of control, each moment punctuated by the intoxicating blend of passion and pain as the city outside continued its relentless pulse. Morning light broke through the expansive windows of Minho's lavish apartment, illuminating a scene that brought a jolt of shock to Yujin's system. She blinked, the comfort of the previous evening replaced by the haze of confusion that settled heavily in her chest. Panic surged when she realized that this mysterious man, whose name lingered as a sweet whisper on her lips, was the uncle of her closest friend, Park Soo-min. "How could I be so reckless?" she breathed, scrambling to gather her scattered thoughts as shame washed over her. Tension hung thick in the air as she rushed home, replaying the wild night that now felt like a dark secret, tangled with her loyalty to Soo-min. Days turned into weeks as Yujin navigated the aftermath, only to find herself drawn into a complicated marriage with Minho, who, despite his magnetic presence, held an undeniable sway over her every move. "We must protect our dignity," he insisted, his tone leaving no room for refusal as societal expectations crushed her beneath their weight. Torn between obligation and the flutter of excitement she felt around him, Yujin plunged into a world rich yet isolating, where her heart felt like an open wound. Each interaction with Minho felt like a dance through chaos, moments of fiery connection quickly overshadowed by his staunch control and her growing insecurities. Yet, as she stepped deeper into Minho's extravagant life, tensions simmered at the surface. His family, particularly his aunt Lee Soo-jin, scrutinized every step she took, their disapproval heaped upon her with scathing remarks and piercing glares. "You should know your place," Soo-jin remarked during an elaborately staged family dinner. Her voice dripped with contempt as she watched Yujin struggle to maintain a facade of confidence amid condescending whispers. Yet, within the shadows of her misgivings, Yujin felt sparks ignite in moments of vulnerability shared with Minho, his own burdens becoming more apparent. "You don't understand what I've lost, the decisions I had to make," he confessed one night, eyes shimmering with unspent tears. Could this be the start of a deeper bond? She wondered. In the stillness of a moonlit night, Yujin stumbled upon a note tucked inside Minho's belongings. It spoke of his childhood secrets, betrayals that had twisted his family ties like roots bound in darkness. Heart pounding, she confronted him, her loyalty warring with sudden fear. "Is this who you really are? Are we just pawns in a game of honor?" The crack in his exterior widened as he wrestled with his past, revealing a vulnerability she had barely glimpsed before, a passion for demolishing layers of betrayal before the weight of expectations crushed them both. The tension culminated when Soo-jin orchestrated a plan to dismantle their fragile union, unveiling the truth Yujin had feared all along. Family lies woven into their very existence, secrets that intertwined their lives in ways they had never imagined. Heart racing, Yujin confronted Soo-jin, anger lighting her spirit ablaze. "This isn't just about you anymore," she shouted, feeling courage swell within her as she drew strength from deep-rooted affection for Minho. "You may have power, but love can overcome all." As the confrontation reached a fever pitch, the unexpected twist of unity between Yujin and Minho transformed the landscape of their conflict. The bonds of jealousy and resentment began to fray. They fought not just against Soo-jin, but for the authenticity of their connection. Minho, confronted with the repercussions of his past decisions and the strength of Yujin's spirit, saw the path toward redemption unfold before him. one paved with trust and commitment, born not of obligation, but of choice. Together, they emerged from the tumult, breathless yet hopeful, ready to face an uncertain future, entwined not just by circumstances but by a love nurtured through shared struggles. In the embrace of vulnerability and authenticity, they discovered a tenderness they had not expected, one that held the promise of blossoming anew. Unresolved tensions lingered, and questions remained unanswered as their journey had just begun. But in that moment, they stood united against the storms life would continue to bring, forging a new chapter drenched in resilience and genuine connection. Waking up to a scandal was never on my to-do list. Kim Yujin muttered under her breath, her heart pounding as she raced through the bustling streets of Seoul, thoughts of the previous night crashing over her like tidal waves. Guilt coiled tightly in her chest as images of her laughter with Minho flickered in her mind. A wild night that had ignited a spark but left her feeling utterly lost. Betrayal gnawed at her conscience as she processed her actions, knowing full well the weight they placed upon her friendship with Park Soo-min. In a sea of thoughts, the responsibility of her sudden entanglement with Soo-min's uncle loomed large, darkening her heart with dread. Just as she reached her apartment, the air shifted. Minho stood on her doorstep, tall and commanding, emanating an allure that was both thrilling and frightening. "We need to talk," he declared, his voice steady as he brushed past her into the small space filled with memories of happier times. Yujin felt trapped. The warmth from the previous night now turned into an uncomfortable heat. Minho's eyes bore into hers, holding a mixture of urgency and authority that made her pulse quicken. "We can't let anyone know about last night. You need to marry me." The words blasted through her like a winter storm, leaving her breathless. "What?" she spluttered, her mind racing, confusion flooding her veins. "Marry you? Why would I do something so ridiculous?" Minho met her gaze with unwavering intensity. A moment stretched between them as tension whirled in the air. "To preserve our honor," he responded flatly, the statement echoing with the unrelenting force of tradition and societal pressures that they both felt bearing down on their shoulders. "You have to understand, this is not just about us. It's about our families, our reputations." The sudden weight of expectation pressed upon her, making her feel exceptionally small. Yujin's heart shrieked against the oppressive notion. "But what about love?" she challenged, appalled by the idea of a relationship determined by circumstance rather than emotion. Anger and confusion danced within her. It felt unjust to have her fate dictated by societal norms. Minho softened slightly, uncertainty flickering in the depths of his dark eyes. "I know it's not ideal, but think of the consequences. What will everyone say if we don't?" "Soo-min," his words lingered, stirring up a tempest inside her. The thought of Soo-min's pain cut deep, making her heart ache with guilt beyond measure. Yet was this truly the only way to shield her friend from scandal? As the days unfolded, the weight of the impending decision crushed her spirit. Yujin's mornings turned gray, each moment consumed by spiraling thoughts of her tangled emotions. Minho swung between charm and authority, sporadically showing glimpses of vulnerability, revealing how he too was caught between family obligations and personal desires. "I don't want to lose you," he blurted one day, the rawness of his confession hanging in the air like the thick smog over Seoul. His sincerity diverted her separately. Perhaps beneath the outer layers of control was a wounded man in search of redemption, one burdened by family expectations. However, even as they attempted to navigate their complex emotions, shadows of doubt encircled them like a storm cloud. Yujin faced hostility from Minho's family, particularly from his stern aunt, Soo-jin, whose icy demeanor sliced through any warmth they experienced. "Ungrateful girl," Soo-jin spat during a family dinner, looking down her nose at Yujin with disdain. "You think you can just assume the role of Minho's wife? Where's your noble heritage?" The conflation of anger and sadness engulfed Yujin as she fought to maintain her composure against the cruel judgment. One evening, the walls began to close in around her, and a burgeoning desire for independence sparked anew. After an intense confrontation between the two families, where Minho had stood up for her, Yujin found the courage afresh. "No more pretending," she stated, realization hitting hard. "I won't be just a pawn in your family's game. I want to choose. Choose who I love, how I feel." The room went silent, all eyes turning to her, including Minho's. Her heart raced with fear, yet thrummed with exhilaration. It was a declaration of freedom that resonated deeply within her soul. Afterward, they found solace in a quiet park beneath the cherry blossoms that came alive with vibrant pinks, illuminating the dark corners of their lives. Facing each other, Yujin braved the vulnerability she so desperately held back. "I can't marry you unless it's for the right reasons," she confessed. "I need to know your heart aligns with your vows." Her voice edged with both determination and longing. Minho's face reflected the struggle for acceptance, yet he nodded slowly, understanding the truth in her words. "We need to figure out what we mean to each other beyond family pressure," he admitted quietly, revealing a crack in his armor. Their journey had taken a turn toward authenticity, yet the next steps remained uncertain. Yujin had never imagined love could blossom amidst all the chaos and confusion. Still, the tension between societal expectations and personal desires loomed large, a challenge that continued to intertwine their fates. As they walked side by side, the path ahead remained unclear, yet the promise of a relationship built on choice rather than obligation hung gently in the air, a flicker of hope in the chaos of life. Love should never feel like a gilded cage. The thought echoed through Kim Yujin's mind as she stood on the threshold of Minho's opulent home, the lavish decor contrasting sharply with the turmoil that stirred within her. The grand entrance, framed by ornate chandeliers and polished marble, felt suffocating, layers of expectation settling heavily on her shoulders. She had reluctantly accepted the marriage, a decision soaked in anxiety and overshadowed by a bitter sense of entrapment. The luxury that surrounded her was stunning yet oppressive, binding her in the intricate web of Minho's family dynamics. As days turned into weeks, Yujin learned the unspoken rules of Minho's world. Behind the shimmering facade of affluence, power dynamics twisted and turned, like threads of a delicate tapestry. She felt invisible in social gatherings where laughter rang hollow beneath the scrutiny of Minho's relatives, their piercing gazes assessing every move she made. "You'll never belong here," one of his aunts sneered one evening, her voice laced with disdain during a lavish dinner. The words struck like a blow, resonating with Yujin's deepest insecurities as she tried desperately to carve a place for herself within this stifling elite. However, amid the turmoil, moments of warmth danced between her and Minho. They shared fleeting glances during family dinners, quiet conversations in the twilight hours, and stolen touches that ignited embers of affection. "You're strong, Yujin," Minho whispered one night as they leaned against his balcony railing, overlooking a city that pulsed with life below. "I chose you for a reason." There was sincerity in his eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that drew her in, warming her heart against the chill of family judgment. Yet, the rift created by their different worlds weighed heavily, sowing seeds of doubt in her mind about the foundation of their union. Despite the bond forming between them, an unexpected twist lurked in the shadows of their newfound relationship. The constant scrutiny intensified, revealing cracks that threatened to expose the fragile nature of their marriage. Minho's youngest sister, Yunji, eventually arrived from studying abroad, her vivacious personality instantly lighting up the room. But beneath her charisma lay an unsettling jealousy as she began challenging Yujin at every turn. "Why do you think you're so special?" Yunji would taunt, pulling at Yujin's insecurities, instigating doubt at every opportunity. The sisters' relentless need for approval from their parents clashed with Yujin's efforts to prove her worth, creating a perfect storm that brewed tension. One evening, emotions boiled over during a lavish family gala. Sumin had arrived, her loyal support a beacon among the pretentious smiles of high society. But the atmosphere shifted drastically when Yunji, fueled by jealousy, cornered Yujin in a quieter part of the sprawling estate. "Do you really think you can hold on to Minho? You're just a stopgap until someone better comes along." The malice in her words ignited something fierce within Yujin, awakening a determination she thought had long since dimmed. Fueled by equal parts anger and heartbreak, she countered fiercely, "I may not come from your world, but I have something you don't, authenticity. Minho deserves more than just someone to fill his life with appearances." The heated exchange drew Minho's attention, and he stepped into the fray, fierce protectiveness flooding through him as he defended Eugen. Enough. His voice cut through the tension, forcing both women to silence. "Eugen is everything I need. This marriage isn't a facade. It's real. I want her as my partner." His declaration hung in the air, the shift in power palpable, as minuscule cracks widened in Yunji's bravado. The confrontation marked a turning point, stripping away the false layers of pretense that clouded their lives. But the road ahead remained littered with challenges, familial loyalty still nagging at the corners of their love. In the aftermath of the gala, Eugen faced a crucial choice regarding her identity. She could remain a passive player in Minho's universe, or assert her place within it. One evening, as they watched the sun set together, she took his hand, her nerves taut, yet resolute. "I refuse to be just an addition to your life. I want to build a life with you, based on our own truth, not the weight of expectations." Minho's expression softened, and he squeezed her hand gently, understanding washing over his features. "I want that too." Their shared determination lit a path forward, one that acknowledged their differences without letting them define their bond. The sentiment lingered in the night air as dreams intermingled with reality, guiding them toward a future ripe with possibility. Though the journey wouldn't be simple, they now faced it together, the shadows of insecurity slowly dissipating. Neither blinded by wealth nor constrained by tradition, they stood resilient against ancestral judgment, ready to carve their path in the world. As they walked into the future hand in hand, both Eugen and Minho felt a renewed sense of hope, daring to change the narrative surrounding them. Each step resonated with a rhythm of love that celebrated not only who they were, but who they could become together. Drowning in wealth doesn't guarantee acceptance. The words echoed in Kim Eugen's mind as she stepped into the Grand Lee family estate for yet another family gathering, the opulence that surrounded her doing little to soothe her anxiety. Having married into this affluent family, she quickly learned that her past, laden with struggles, painted her as an outsider in a world that thrived on tradition and privilege. It was here that she met her fiercest adversary, Lee Soo-jin, Minho's aunt, who regarded her with disdain, her piercing gaze making Eugen acutely aware of the judgment lurking beneath the surface. Soo-jin held sway in the family with her steely resolve and sharp tongue, and it didn't take long for Eugen to realize that the elegant yet ruthless matriarch had no intention of letting her slip into the family fabric easily. "She'll never be one of us," Soo-jin sneered to a group of relatives, confidence oozing from her every word. The judgment sunk into Eugen like a heavy weight, each remark igniting her insecurities further. Turning to Minho, who stood uncomfortably between them, Eugen felt the warm glow of his support, but couldn't shake off the shadows cast by Soo-jin's disapproval. Eugen attempted to bridge the chasm, inviting Soo-jin over for tea, hoping to earn her favor amidst the tense silence. But attempts at kindness were met with coldness. "Why do you waste your efforts?" Soo-jin shot back one afternoon, her words clipped like a blade. The indifference stung, igniting frustration inside Eugen, who longed to belong. Her attempts at understanding only seemed to fuel Soo-jin's belief that she was unworthy, locking Eugen in a battle not just against Soo-jin, but against her own self-doubt. Just when Eugen thought she could no longer endure the tension, an unexpected twist rippled through their already strained interactions. While organizing a charity gala that Soo-jin was spearheading, Eugen stumbled across whispers and hushed conversations that hinted at hidden motives. Late one night, she overheard Soo-jin on a phone call, the words, "I need to discredit her," echoing through the hall as Eugen listened, heart racing. Panic clawed at her throat as she realized that Soo-jin was using her insecurities against her, preparing to unveil unflattering truths about her past to Minho, who had placed unwavering trust in her. Determined to confront Soo-jin, Eugen schemed to catch her in the act. She faced Sujin directly in the opulent garden, under the blooming cherry blossoms that stood in stark contrast to the tension saturating the air. "I know what you've been planning. You think I'm not worthy of this family," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlpool of emotions threatening to drown her. The vulnerability in her stance transformed into fiery resolve. She was fed up with feeling like a pawn in someone else's game. "Those who don't understand their place don't deserve to sit at the table," Sujin retorted, her expression unreadable. The words struck a nerve, and tears threatened to spill. But Yujin held firm, recalling moments of genuine laughter and love shared with Minho. "I belong here, and I'm not going to let you tear that down," she asserted, grounding herself in the connection she had forged. This confrontation revealed cracks in Sujin's perceived strengths. The false veneer of control began to warp, exposing uncertainty beneath. The truth erupted, echoing loudly in the quiet garden. "Your family is just as flawed as mine," Yujin challenged, not backing down. Sujin's eyes flickered with surprise, her composure wavering as Yujin's raw honesty pierced her knowing facade. "Perhaps you hide behind tradition to shield your insecurities." Yujin pressed on, a sense of liberation swirling within her. The tension peaked as Sujin remained silent, her past choices weighing heavily on her. The silence throbbed between them, the unsaid words creating a bridge of understanding they both hadn't realized they could share. Sujin's expression shifted, revealing something more profound than disdain. It revealed her fear of losing her influence, her desire to protect her family at all costs. As days passed, the aftermath of their confrontation rumbled through the estate. Sujin's disdain started shifting. She observed Yujin in a new light, a glimmer of respect emerging. Meanwhile, Yujin felt the burden of expectations lift, her confidence soaring as she forged her own identity in the Lee family, embracing her unique heritage rather than shying away from it. Yet, the journey was far from over. Sujin's motivations complicated matters, forcing Yujin to remain vigilant as the tension of living outside the family's traditional bounds still lingered. As she and Minho exchanged vulnerable moments, cloaked in honesty, Yujin knew they had to navigate their future together, one that they could build amid the remnants of family expectations and her fight for acceptance. Their bond strengthened through the shared understanding of their respective battles, and quietly, they began to chart a new course for their lives. With every challenge overcome, they stepped closer to redefining family, not based on blood or wealth, but on love and understanding which transcended societal norms, crafting a narrative that was entirely their own. The future remained uncertain, yet with it came the promise of acceptance, and in that hope, they found their strength. Can love truly thrive in the shadows of doubt? Kim Yujin pondered as she stared out from the balcony of her new home, the city skyline casting a glittering glow beneath the evening sky. The lavish estate belonged to Minho and dripped with wealth and expectations. Yet behind the elegance lay the strain of a marriage that felt both promising and precarious. She had embarked on this journey with him, embroiled in both the beauty and burden of their union. But days spent trying to flourish were overshadowed by an undercurrent of uncertainty that gnawed at her spirit. Navigating the intricacies of married life was a struggle. Yujin devoted herself to learning the unspoken rules that governed the Lee family, attempting to find her footing in a realm where elegance masked profound judgment. And amidst the policing gazes at family gatherings, private conversations with Minho began to reveal layers of vulnerability within him, each encounter peeling away the confident exterior. One night, nestled together at the dining room table, he reluctantly shared pieces of his childhood tinged with loss. "I never felt like I could measure up," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, eyes reflecting shadows of the boy who had always tried to meet high expectations, but frequently felt inadequate. Yujin's heart ached for him, her own struggles mirrored in his words. She reached out, placing her hand over his. "We can build something together," she encouraged, longing to instill hope. Yet, with every moment of warmth came deeper layers of doubt, forcing her to question if their bond could ever be founded on trust. The struggle to sew together a life while grappling with personal insecurities became more pressing, as secrets began to weave through their delicate relationship, leaving Yujin feeling like a stranger in her own home. The impact of these revelations soon drove Yujin to explore Minho's past further, drawn by an instinct to connect yet fearful of what she might uncover. As she sifted through old photographs and dusty boxes in his study, she stumbled upon letters containing hidden sentiments, hints of betrayal and familial strife. Minho's past was a tapestry of complexity, each thread revealing the pressures he faced on a daily basis, leaving her wondering if they were both entangled in a cycle of expectations that could overshadow their love. Perhaps the most alarming moment unfolded one afternoon when Yujin confronted Minho about his silence on certain aspects of his life that puzzled her. "You keep things bottled up, and I can't build anything real without knowing you," she urged, desperation creeping into her voice. Driven by her need for authenticity, Yujin reached for his trust, but Minho hesitated, caught between a newfound desire for openness and the deep-seated fear of exposing his vulnerabilities. "Sometimes the truth can be a burden," he replied due softly that it felt like a gentle brush against her heart. The tension rose, casting a palpable chill between them. "I'm trying to protect you. From them. From my past," he continued, then paused, searching for the right words. It struck Yujin then. This wasn't just about the obstacles that lay ahead. It was about them becoming who they truly were beneath the weight of their circumstances. Their greatest challenge arrived when Yujin learned of a family meeting orchestrated by Sujin, aimed at discussing Minho's obligations to his family, including expectations for future children. The thought collided violently with her hopes for a life defined by shared dreams rather than external pressures. Alone in the bathroom, tears streamed down her face as she confronted the turbulent emotions welling within. "I can't just be another piece in a family legacy I never signed up for," she whispered to her reflection, determination fueling her voice. The subsequent family meeting became the turning point for both Minho and Yujin. As tensions escalated, the air thick with unspoken judgment, Yujin, now more self-assured, rose to defend their union, her heart pounding as she faced Sujin and other relatives. "Our love cannot be dictated by your expectations. We deserve the freedom to choose our own path." The tension in the room lightened as her words, though challenging their tradition, echoed with a fierce determination that had been missing before. The confrontation left Minho taken aback, sensing the depth of her commitment not only to him, but to the life they were trying to forge against the overwhelming pressures of the family. After the meeting, amidst the stillness that enveloped them, he reached for her hands, his gaze locking onto hers. "You're right, and I want us to keep building this together," he said earnestly, vulnerability seeping into his tone, their barriers slowly crumbling away. As weeks passed, the road ahead remained fraught with complexities, but the warmth and trust growing between Yujin and Minho became the foundation of their union. With every cozy conversation shared during quiet dinners, and every laugh that punctuated the strain, they wove a new narrative, one defined by their choices rather than by the past. Though scars remained from the battles fought, hope flickered stronger than fear. In that hope, Yujin discovered that love is not merely about overcoming doubts or fitting into expectations. It's about embracing imperfections, confronting fears, and nurturing the fragile blossoms of trust planted in the bond they continuously cultivated. As they sat on the balcony together, watching the colorful city pulse with life, Yujin smiled, feeling the warmth of Minho's presence beside her. Their love was real, alive and breathing, wrapped in the complexities of reality, yet equally touched by dreams yet to unfold. Friendships can shatter when love becomes tangled in family ties. Park Soo-min stood on the brink of a storm, her heart heavy with uncertainty as she faced the reality of her world colliding in the most unexpected way. The warm autumn sun filtering through her apartment window felt distant as she processed the implosion of trust with her best friend, Kim Yujin, who had unwittingly married her uncle, Lee Minho. Every fiber of her being wrestled between loyalty to Yujin and the sense of betrayal she felt by the very fabric of her family. The walls of her once comfortable apartment felt suffocating as memories of laughter and solace spent with Eugen raced through her mind. Sumin, a generous spirit with unwavering loyalty, found herself torn. Each encounter now simmered with an unsettling tension that colored their friendship in shades of grief and resentment. Supportive gestures were overshadowed by the truth of their tangled lives. Eugen's joyful laughter resonated with her, a melody she had cherished, now a lament infused with pain. She could feel the fragile threads of their friendship fraying, each moment heavy with unspoken words and strained silences. A pivotal moment arrived on an overcast afternoon when Eugen came to Sumin for a heart-to-heart. "I need you to understand, Sumin," she said, her voice quaking with urgency. "This marriage isn't just some arrangement. I care about Minho." Sumin's heart twisted. She felt the churning in her stomach as she gazed into Eugen's earnest eyes. "But do you really think this is what you want? Are you sure he's the right person?" she ventured, desperate to unearth the truth beneath the surface. As the tension rose, Eugen fought to hold back tears, the emotional current pulling them both under. In that moment, Sumin felt a rush of empathy for her friend's plight, a vulnerability she had seen in her own reflection. "I'm trying to navigate this as best as I can," Eugen confessed, her voice breaking. Yet intertwined with her sympathy was a seed of resentment that had been buried deep. Anguish unfurled within Sumin, aching for the friendship they had once cherished while grappling with the reality that it now felt like betrayal against her family values. Simmering emotions came to a head shortly after when Sumin encountered Minho at a family gathering, the air thick with expectation. With every polished laugh and practiced gesture, he radiated confidence, but she saw past it. "Do you even care how this affects Sumin?" Sujin called out, her tone dripping with disdain, drawing attention to the unspoken fracture. The words hung heavy between them, creating a chasm that echoed Sumin's silent doubts about her connection to Eugen. She felt the weight of obligation, supporting her uncle while stalemate enveloped her feelings for her best friend. Caught in the tempest of her emotions, Sumin took a step back. "No, you don't get to play the victim here. You married her, and I have a right to feel hurt," she snapped, surprising even herself with her decisiveness. The exchange unveiled raw wounds, and in Minho's eyes, she caught the flicker of realization that their relationship was far more complicated than mere sentimentality suggested. Days turned into weeks, and Sumin's internal struggle fermented. Cherished memories morphed into stolen glances that were now fraught with trepidation. She began pouring her feelings into her art, sketching their moments together. However, every stroke of her pencil seemed unsteady and haunted. The once joyful endeavors of their friendship dwindled into a canvas splattered with unprocessed emotions. The world turned gray as unresolved tensions loomed over Sumin, aching for authenticity but ensnared by family loyalty. She watched as Eugen and Minho slowly built their lives. Their secret shared moments beckoned a tenderness that eluded her in the wake of their union. Yet within the interplay of their existence, Sumin found herself pushed to the periphery, relegated to a position where her emotions became uncharted territories. A final confrontation loomed in the midst of a precariously planned dinner, an attempt at reconciliation, soothed by sushi and wine, yet thick with unspoken truths. The tension was palpable as Eugen and Minho exchanged affectionate glances that knotted in Sumin's gut, each smile feeling like a betrayal twisted into a blade. "Can we just talk openly?" Sumin finally asked, her voice awash with vulnerability as the mask of moodiness cracked. Expressions froze, and in that fraught moment, silence enveloped them. "This isn't just about you two," she declared, her spirit fierce and unyielding. "I am happy for you both, but I need to voice my pain," she confessed. "I can't just stand aside and watch this unfold without expressing my hurt." Eugen's eyes glistened with understanding, while Minho's gaze shifted, taking the weight of her words. The acknowledgement struck a chord within the room, an echo of fragmented heartbeats aligned for the first time. They were now wrapped within a deeper connection, a recognition that each held a role in this tangled web, yet all shared a common goal of honesty. As the evening ended, soft apologies filled the space where hurt had once reigned. Sumin realized that while the path forward was uncertain, conversations would no longer be shrouded in shadows. Together, they would mend the intricate threads that pulled their lives apart, forging a new bond amid the remains of old ones. There was promise in growth, a foundation of newfound trust on the horizon, revealing paths untraveled for them all. In the lingering glow of hope, Sumin understood that love could endure, so long as honesty and sincerity stitched their narratives together, weaving a tapestry richer than any family expectation. They stood united, even in brokenness, ready to embrace whatever came next on this winding journey. Secrets have a way of unraveling the strongest of bonds. Kim Yujin's heart raced as she stood in the dim light of their elegantly appointed living room, the air crackling with tension. The walls, adorned with memories of happier times, now felt like an echo chamber of her insecurities. Minho, her husband, stood before her, his demeanor heavy, a storm concealed behind his calm exterior. Since their whirlwind marriage, shadows loomed, and her heart screamed for answers about the unexplored corners of his past. "Minho, we need to talk," she began, her voice wavering slightly as she pressed onward, desperate to pierce the veil of silence that had enveloped them. She felt an urgency bloom within her, pushing her to confront the nagging doubts that threatened to settle deep in her soul. "Why do you keep avoiding the things that matter? What happened before me? What are you hiding?" His dark eyes filled with a weighty sorrow. Yet he remained resolute, refusing to divulge the details that could bring them closer, but kept feeling like a barrier instead. "It's not that simple, Yujin," he replied, an edge of vulnerability seeping through the calm facade he tried to maintain. "Some things are better left in the past." Her stomach twisted at the thought, a creeping sense of betrayal taking root where love had once flourished. She desired transparency, yet Minho's reluctance only deepened the cracks in their foundation, exposing the shadows of control that lurked beneath their seemingly perfect life together. As the days passed, Yujin found herself fighting a growing unease amidst their shared moments. Late-night conversations, once filled with dreams and laughter, morphed into bitter arguments over trivial matters. "Why can't you just trust me?" she exploded one evening, her frustration and fear bubbling over during what had started as a simple discussion about grocery shopping. Minho's face darkened. He lifted a hand in exasperation. "I'm trying to handle everything. You don't understand the pressures I'm under." The flash of anger on his face was a stark reminder that the depths of their marriage were not as solid as she hoped. With each tiff and every cold silence following, an unsettling realization crept in. Her husband had a controlling side that veiled itself behind expressions of care. He would make decisions without consulting her, choosing dinner plans or vacations without asking for her opinion. It was as if he were attempting to shield her from the complexities of life, only to highlight her insecurities. And it stung. What began as protective actions left her questioning whether the love they shared was genuine or merely a reflection of his desire to maintain control over their lives. One evening, consumed by her thoughts, Yujin sought refuge in her art studio, each brushstroke aimed at catharsis. As she painted, the forgotten emotions bubbled to the surface. In the corners of the canvas, she layered vibrant colors that melded together, each representing her hopes and fears. But under the brilliance lay hues of gray and black, a stark representation of her turmoil. The act became a refuge in which she could explore the conflicting facets of her identity within their relationship. The woman in love, yet plagued by uncertainty. It was during one of her late-night painting sessions that Minho entered quietly, drawn by the soft glow of the lamp illuminating Yujin's determined expressions. "What are you working on?" he asked, his voice laced with curiosity. She hesitated, conflicted about sharing her vulnerability. "Just feelings." The pain woven into her words hung heavy in the air. In that moment, she decided to tear down the barrier and began. "I feel like you're hiding something important from me, and it's making me doubt our foundation." Minho's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "Yujin, all my intentions are to keep you safe. I love you, and I don't want to burden you with my past." But as he spoke, a tired sincerity painted his face, and she saw the conflict etched in his brow, an emotional chasm neither knew how to bridge. As their conversations spilled into the night, a raw honesty surfaced, illuminating the shadows that overshadowed their hearts. "But I want to share the burden," she insisted, resolve flooding her spirit, pulling them closer despite the distance. "I can't breathe in this tension any longer." Struggling against vulnerability, Minho's defenses finally shattered as he recalled fragments of his past. The looming expectations left by his family, the painful betrayal from someone he had thought he could trust, and the scars it had left in the crevices of his heart. "I was afraid that letting you in would mean you could leave," he breathed, his voice laden with vulnerability. "I didn't want the darkness of my past to taint our future." The admission changed the course of their conversation, removing a veil of misunderstanding that had hung between them. The shadows of manipulation he had unconsciously wielded now fell away as they began to navigate the beautiful complexity of genuine connection. In the weeks that followed, both Yujin and Minho committed to tackling the uncharted territories of their relationship. With each conversation layered with honesty, they forged a deeper connection that accepted imperfections rather than trying to shield them. The nights turned from arguments to discussions, soft laughter echoing in the evening air as they rediscovered each other. Though challenges awaited, there was a newfound strength anchored in their understanding. Yujin realized that while their love would weather imperfections, it would be tested too in the storms of doubt and fear. Yet she felt buoyed by the hope they cultivated together, an assurance that they were both willing to confront their pasts to embrace a shared future, filled with love, resilience, and choice. In each other, they found the light necessary to dispel the darkness, and as they stepped forward, hand in hand, they knew they had begun the journey toward a love built on trust, transparency, and respect. Every family has its secrets. Some are buried deeper than others. The heavy files were piled haphazardly on the desk, the faint smell of dust swirling in the air as Kim Yujin sifted through the forgotten relics that belonged to Minho's family. Unbeknownst to her, this moment would change everything. As she flipped through the documents, her heart raced. The details revealed a web of deceit woven through time, financial crises, betrayal, and scandals that echoed through the halls of the Lee family estate. These were not just distant whispers. They were the foundation upon which everything Minho knew had been built, and they prepared her for an impending confrontation with his formidable aunt, Lee Soo-jin. Yujin's determination solidified into an adrenaline-fueled purpose as she understood the significance of what she had uncovered. Maternal instincts ignited her inner fire. She would no longer be a passive figure in this privileged world. With the documents clutched tightly in her hands, she marched toward Soo-jin's office, her mind racing with a mix of fear and empowerment. She knocked firmly, the sound surging as a signal of her resolve. Soo-jin, with her meticulously pinned hair and pristine blazer, looked up from her desk, surprise flitting across her features. "Yujin? What is it?" Her tone was cool, disarming, but the fierce glint in her eyes betrayed a protective instinct hovering beneath her composure. Undeterred, Yujin took a deep breath, summoning the courage that had been building in her chest. "I know about the family secrets," she stated steadily, her voice unwavering. Panic flashed momentarily on Soo-jin's face before it morphed into a sharp, calculated smile. "You're treading on dangerous ground, Yujin." The warning floated through the air, thick with tension. Secrets are meant to stay hidden to protect the family. But deep inside, a thrill ensnared Yujin. She had the upper hand for once. "Those secrets have harmed Minho and me," she replied, her conviction blossoming with each word. Unbeknownst to Yujin, Soo-jin's disdain for her had deeper roots. Beneath the cloak of family loyalty lay a personal stake that painted their rivalry in shades of heartbreak. The layers of her resentment revealed themselves as Yujin pressed on. "You think your judgment will shield him from the truth?" As the conversation escalated, Soo-jin's facade began to crack. "You have no idea what you're getting into," she snapped, her posture shifting from dignified to defensive. "Minho's pain is my pain. I lost someone because of these so-called secrets, and you think you can just waltz into our family and orchestrate change? Each word dripped with a heavy bitterness born from a history long buried. What happened to you? Eugen asked, her voice softening with understanding, attempting to bridge the divide between them. What could possibly be worth this kind of hatred toward me? The tense air shifted, and for a brief moment, vulnerability flashed across Sujin's sharp features. The years washed away as she revealed, I loved a man who was cast aside because of this family's expectations. He had everything, wealth, status, but in the end, it was his past that claimed him. Stunned, Eugen realized that Sujin's disdain for her was laced with jealousy of her chance at love, something Sujin never felt she could have. The moment hung between them heavy with understanding, the passion driven by loss merging with the tension of their current predicament. It was a painful revelation, one that altered the landscape of their conflict. In that fleeting exchange, the balance of their confrontation shifted, as both women recognized the shadows of impossible expectations looming over them. I'm not your enemy, Sujin, Eugen declared, her voice resolute yet gentle. Minho deserves happiness, just like you did. The honesty of Eugen's words seeped into Sujin's hardened exterior, stirring something long eclipsed, a desire for companionship rather than rivalry. The explosive revelation left them both breathless, standing on the cusp of a fragile truce. But tension remained. Your allegiance must lie with him, not the family, Sujin warned quietly, the threat lingering even in her newfound openness. You'll regret crossing me. As the confrontation dissolved into an uneasy pause, Eugen understood that the battle was far from over. Yet, for the first time, she didn't feel entirely alone. With the weight of the document still clenching in her grip, she felt a sense of empowerment, ready to champion her love for Minho despite the ulterior motives swirling through his family. The road ahead remained uncertain, but resolution toned the air between them. It was a beginning, a cautious alliance between two women wrangled by profound loss. Eugen left Sujin's office, her heart pounding with purpose. The balance had shifted. She would work to unravel the familial entanglements that threatened her marriage, and in doing so, perhaps she could bring healing to both their lives. As she stepped outside the cool shadows of the estate, she took a deep breath, feeling the weight of hope blooming amidst the confusion. Vulnerability led to understanding, and in that moment, she found the fight within herself to forge a path enriched by love rather than fear, determined to rewrite the narrative of betrayal that had curled itself around them all for far too long. Sometimes the darkest shadows come from our pasts. The air was thick with tension as Kim Eugen stood in their living room, her heart racing like a drum against her ribcage. Minho, her husband, paced nearby, the dim light casting elongated shadows on the walls that resembled the fragmented trust between them. For months their marriage had been burdened with secrets and an unsettling vibe that had begun to suffocate her. Now she craved honesty, a chance to peel back the layers that hid the truth between them. Minho, I can't do this anymore. I need you to be honest with me, she exclaimed, a tremor betraying her resolve. His face turned to steel, the intensity of her demand reflected in his dark eyes. What are you talking about? He shot back, the defensiveness evident in his tone. She felt the walls closing in. It was now or never. Fueled by an adrenaline rush, Eugen pushed onward. This strain between us is unbearable. I deserve to know what's really going on. For a moment, silence reigned, the air thick with the unspoken words both had been holding back. Minho's facade began to crack, a hint of vulnerability flickering in his gaze. You want to know the truth? He murmured, voice low as if he were summoning the courage to reveal the burdens he carried. Fine. I acknowledge that I have tendencies to control the situation, but it comes from a place deep within me. The admission struck Eugen unexpectedly, her defenses softening as the gravity of his words settled over her. What do you mean? She asked gently, yearning to understand. Minho took a deep breath, his expression pained, revealing the flicker of a boy resting with shadows. I grew up in a world where my every step was calculated for me. I felt powerless, so I learned to take charge in every situation. As he recounted his childhood, Eugen could see the ghost of that boy, the innocent child overshadowed by expectations and demands. His voice trembled. When I lost my father to his own demons, I promised myself I would never feel powerless again. But now I see that I sometimes try too hard to protect everything I love. The raw sincerity of his confession caught her off guard, forcing her to confront the deeper layers of him she hadn't recognized. "Minho," she began, her heart shifting as empathy blossomed within her. "I had no idea you struggled like this, but closing me off, it just pushes me away." In that bittersweet moment, clarity dawned for both of them. Their arguments, the distance, even the control, it all stemmed from fear and unresolved pain. "But it's hard to let go," he admitted, his voice thick. "Trust is not something easy for me." There it was, the raw truth that opened the floodgates of both their burdens and insecurities. Eugen stepped closer, their eyes locking in a moment of understanding. "We can work on this, but we need to meet each other halfway," she urged, a deep well of conviction anchoring her voice. Just as she began to feel that they could rekindle the warmth in their relationship, an unexpected noise jolted them from their intimate moment, a crash from the adjacent room. It reverberated like the last echo of their defenses falling apart. They both turned towards the source, each anticipating the worst. "The documents!" Eugen gasped, remembering the files she had hastily left on the counter earlier. They both dashed towards the noise, discovering the chaotic scattering of papers strewn across the floor. As Minho scanned the documents, horror filled his eyes. "You went through my family's past." His face paled with disbelief, revealing the cracks that were once sealed with silence. The tension morphed once again, this time slicing through their progress like a knife. "Minho, she started, desperation creeping into her voice. But he interrupted, incredulity brimming. "You invaded my privacy, Eugen. I thought we were building trust here." The air grew cold, the warmth of their previous coherence evaporating. Eugen fought the impulse to retreat, realizing suddenly that transparency also demanded respect for boundaries. "I needed to understand the ghosts haunting our relationship. I thought uncovering this would help us," she exclaimed, frustration tinging her tone as vulnerability threatened to suffocate her. As they stood amidst the scattered remnants of disclosure and pain, something unyielding flickered in Minho. "Why does it feel like we're only unearthing more darkness?" His words were a mixture of anger and despair, piercing the tenuous thread of hope they had woven mere moments before. He was torn between hurt and an overwhelming desire to break free of his past, but his defense mechanisms were sparking again, clashing with the trust they had just begun to build. With all the courage she could muster, Eugen didn't waver. "Because we can't heal what we don't acknowledge. We must face the wounds, yours, mine, and ours together." The soft determination in her voice rang true, echoing through the chaos they had momentarily created. Minho paused, mesmerized by the resolve she presented. The fight drained from him as a flicker of realization lit his expression. "You're right," he whispered, the anger transforming into something softer, more vulnerable. They had crossed a threshold, vulnerable yet infinitely deeper than before. As the storm of emotions began to settle, they faced each other again amid the remnants of flying papers. Trust was a delicate dance, and although they were still entangled within uncertainty, the threads of understanding began to weave them closer. With the weight of their truths finally breaking through, Eugen and Minho both understood that their journey would require patience and perseverance. In that quiet moment, they renewed their commitment to rekindle the flames of their love amidst the looming shadows, prepared to tackle both the hardships and the possibilities that accompanied their union. There, surrounded by upheaval, they stood on the precipice of self-awareness and healing, willing to confront the past and embrace the future together, no matter how daunting it appeared. Sometimes, the only way to break free is to take control of your own story. Kim Eugen had come to realize that standing in the shadows of her marriage to Lee Minho no longer suited her. The opulent surroundings of their sole home had once felt like a gilded cage where expectations and manipulation thrived. Yet the recent revelations had ignited a fire within her, a desire to reclaim her narrative and shape her future, not just survive within the confines laid out for her. Determination coursed through Yujin as she confronted the challenges posed by Minho's enigmatic aunt, Lee Soo-jin. The tension simmering in their relationship had become a battleground, one soaked in family loyalty and hidden truths. But as she prepared for her confrontations, she felt the significant resolve solidifying within her. With her newfound courage, she began asserting herself, seeking to carve a place of partnership within their marriage instead of yielding to Minho's controlling nature. "Minho, we need to talk," she declared one evening, breaking the silence that had seeped into their lives like smoke. He turned, surprise evident in his eyes, and she pressed forward. "I want us to have a relationship built on honesty and respect. No more manipulation." The words hung between them, charged with an energy that buzzed like electricity. Minho stood still, processing the impact of her fervent declaration as if she had just struck a match in a dark room. In that moment, his defenses began to crack, and the flicker of something deeper resonated in his gaze. "I didn't realize I was holding you back," he confessed earnestly, each syllable laced with vulnerability. "It's hard for me to let go of control when I've spent my entire life trying to protect everyone." This unexpected admission caught Yujin off guard, revealing the complexity of the man she had married. Empathy washed over her. She understood that Minho's desire for control stemmed from painful experiences ingrained in his childhood. Slowly, she began to see the intertwined threads of their lives, where his struggles mirrored her own insecurities. The realization softened the anger that had bubbled beneath the surface, transforming it into a shared understanding. "I know it's difficult for you, but we both deserve equality," she encouraged gently, hoping to break through the hardened shell of his upbringing. As their conversations unfolded over dinners that no longer felt stagnant, something remarkable began to take shape. Minho actively sought to heal not only his own wounds, but also the discord that had grown between them. He listened as Yujin expressed her thoughts, her aspirations, and the lingering fears that had loomed over her, each interaction fostering a profound transformation within their dynamic. One night, after an emotionally charged discussion, Minho surprised Yujin by suggesting they embark on a trip to her favorite seaside town, a place where she had hosted many cherished memories from her childhood. "Let's go back and create something new," he proposed, a hopeful spark dancing in his eyes. Yujin's heart swelled at the thought of rekindling their joy outside the confines of their fractured home. As they made their way to the beach, the sound of crashing waves and the scent of salty air enveloped them, lifting the weight off their shoulders. They walked hand in hand along the shore, their laughter mingling with the wind, each footprint in the sand marking a step toward renewal. This place, once significant in her past, now held the promise of a shared future. With the gentleness of the waves washing against the shore, Minho leaned closer, revealing depths of his heart that had lain hidden. "I'm learning. Each day is an opportunity to grow together, and I want that," he admitted, sincerity imbued in his words. Yujin felt the warmth of his affection grounding her in that moment, their relationship blossoming amidst the backdrop of healing. Yet as they stood at the edge of the water, a sudden wave threatened to sweep them off balance, crashing spectacularly against the shore. It was a visceral reminder of how they had both battled the tides of family pressure and unresolved pain. "Does this mean everything is okay?" she asked tentatively, her voice barely above the roar of the ocean. "Not yet," Minho replied softly. "But I'm committed to making it work. No more hiding or controlling, just us." Yujin felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, the chains that had once bound her loosening as love began to fill the gaps left by uncertainty. In the days following their trip, the foundation of their relationship continued to strengthen, interwoven with small acts of kindness and transparent communication. Minho encouraged her endeavors, championing her aspirations and supporting her dreams as he had once stifled them. Yujin's courage blossomed as she navigated each day with intention, transforming fear into empowerment. She no longer saw herself as a passive figure, but as an equal partner reckoning with the challenges ahead. As they faced the specters of their families and the expectations that lay outside their bond, they learned to stand together, embracing the imperfections of their journey. Yujin discovered that the once heavy burdens had shifted into intricate strands of solidarity, nurturing a partnership filled with trust and understanding. There was still work to be done, and the journey ahead was strewn with uncertainties and obstacles. Yet, in each other's eyes, they began to see the light of empathy, shadows of their past receding amidst a burgeoning love that promised potential. Yujin realized that love could be the anchor that steadied them against life's unpredictable waves, not just a series of expectations to fulfill. Standing hand in hand, the horizon stretching wide before them, they knew the tides would rise, but they were ready to face it, together. Friendship isn't just about standing together. It's about standing with honesty. The evening sun dipped below the horizon, bathing Seoul in a warm golden hue, beautifully illustrating the changing dynamics between Kim Yujin and Park Soomin. Once unshakable allies, they now found themselves straddled between loyalty and hurt, strained by the complexities of love, family, and ambition. Yujin had forged a new identity, transforming from a woman defined by others into one who held the reins of her narrative. Yet in finding her strength, she could not ignore the silent turmoil brewing within Soomin. With each passing day, Soomin grappled with the emergence of Yujin's boldness, feeling both pride and a twinge of jealousy. The autonomy that Yujin embraced began to cast shadows on Soomin's own insecurities. A swirl of emotions battled within her. A desire to be supportive clashed with the fear of losing her best friend to a life that now transcended what she had known them to be. It was this brewing conflict that led her to a crucial, unavoidable decision. She needed to confront Yujin. After days of anticipation, Soomin invited Yujin to their favorite cafe, a cozy spot adorned with twinkling fairy lights and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. As she waited, the knot in her stomach tightened. This was no simple catch-up session. This was an emotional reckoning. When Yujin arrived, the flicker of her joyful smile momentarily eased Soomin's anxiety. "You look great. How's everything with Minho?" she chirped, unwittingly igniting Soomin's internal struggle. Forcing a smile, Soomin launched into their usual banter, but beneath the surface, tension thickened the air as words of camaraderie morphed into an undercurrent of unexpressed vulnerability. After some small talk, Soomin finally took a deep breath and blurted, "Yujin, we need to talk about us." The atmosphere shifted, the clinking of cups falling silent as Yujin's expression changed to one of concern. "What do you mean?" Yujin asked, furrowing her brow. "Are we okay?" Soomin's heart raced as she gathered her thoughts, knowing that this conversation could change everything. "I feel like I'm losing you," she confessed, her voice shaky. "Your newfound confidence, it's incredible, but it scares me. I don't want to be left behind." Each word dripped with honesty, disarming Yujin as she captured the weight of Soomin's feelings. With a tenderness only a close friend could offer, Yujin's heart softened. She reached across the table and squeezed Soomin's hand, anchoring them both in that moment. "You're not losing me," she said gently. "I want you to be a part of this journey with me. I'm terrified of what's ahead. I need your support now more than ever." The vulnerability intertwined, weaving a patchwork of trust and fear as their friendship stood at a tipping point. But just as things began to find their way back, Soomin's unresolved feelings burst forth. "But it's not just me worrying about being left behind. I can't shake off the feeling that your partnership with Minho has changed you." Her breath caught as she fought back tears. "Will we still be able to share our lives like we used to?" The question hung heavy, echoing in the space between them, demanding honesty from Yujin. In the stillness of the cafe, as customers noisily went about their day, Yujin felt as if time had stopped. "I'm still me," she assured, the weight of loyalty guiding her words. "But I am changing. This is necessary for me. I need to grow. Can't we grow together?" The sincerity in her eyes conveyed a depth that touched Sumin's heart, igniting the embers of understanding and love between them. As they sat in that moment, silence stretched between them. They both felt the bittersweet pang of resentment transforming into something profound. A realization that friendship could adapt rather than diminish under the shifting tides of transformation. Then, a sudden sound startled them, a chair scraping against the floor as a group of college students nearby erupted in laughter. Sumin chuckled, breaking the tension with a lightness that felt refreshing. "Maybe we can turn this into a project," she suggested playfully, her eyes brightening. "How about we set some goals for both of us, empower each other to grow?" Yujin smiled, a warmth flooding her heart. Together they began mapping out aspirations, both personal and shared, drawing lines across the future that intertwined their paths cohesively. "I want to support you in everything," Yujin affirmed, realizing that this journey would also mean facing the potential hurdles that came with love. Yet the relief they felt was only the beginning. They had created a safe space to express their desires, but lurking challenges remained: family ties, societal expectations, and the shadows lurking within their pasts would test their resolve. But for now, they cherished the moment, gripping onto the promise of friendship tempered by understanding and love. As they leaned into each other, Sumin's heart teetered with newfound hope. Her desire to stand alongside Yujin rekindled. With laughter and lighter hearts, they departed the cafe, having sewn the threads of their friendship tighter, creating a tapestry rich with possibilities. It was a testament that every change could lead to growth, and they were ready to delve into the challenges ahead together, united and stronger than ever. Love can be both a sanctuary and a battleground. The sun hung low in the sky, casting warm golden hues over the Lee family estate, where Kim Yujin and Lee Minho had once shared dreams of a future together. Now, the air felt thick with tension and betrayal. Sujin, Minho's formidable aunt, had devised a plan to drive a wedge between them, a calculated move meant to shatter the foundations of their love. But Yujin stood determined in the face of adversity, having discovered an inner strength that even she was surprised by. As the days progressed, Sujin's manipulations took shape. Subtle whispers turned into insinuations, each designed to sow disbelief and tension between the couple. "Do you really trust your wife?" she would murmur when no one was watching, casting shadows of doubt behind her polished smile at family gatherings. Minho would turn his gaze away, caught between his family loyalty and his commitment to Yujin. The struggle pulled at him, creating an emotional chasm he felt increasingly powerless to bridge. Yujin sensed the shifting dynamics and decided she could no longer wait for Minho to find his footing. "We need to talk," she insisted one evening, her voice strong and steady as she summoned him to face the tide of mounting pressure. The moment was charged. She understood this confrontation could define their relationship. When they met in the soft glow of their living room, Yujin found herself trembling with a mix of resolve and vulnerability. "I know what Sujin is trying to do. She wants to tear us apart. But I refuse to let her succeed," she declared, her voice tinged with urgency. Minho's brow furrowed, the weight of his aunt's influence heavy on his shoulders. "But I can't break ties with my family," he replied, a haunted expression crossing his face. "You know that they—" "What about us, Minho?" she interrupted, her emotions bubbling to the surface. "What about our marriage? Can't you see that hiding behind family loyalty is slowly suffocating us? You've changed, and I need to know that you're choosing me over the chaos." It was a moment of undeniable honesty. The piercing vulnerability in her eyes urged him to confront the truth he had been avoiding. Minho shifted uncomfortably. He could feel something breaking inside him as he realized how deeply his aunt's manipulations had affected their marriage. "You're right," he finally admitted, the truth spilling out like a sigh. "I've been so worried about letting my family down that I forgot about what truly matters. Us." A fragile hope ignited between them, intertwining with the challenge of old habits. Yet every inch of clarity came with the burden of facing their external pressures. Just as their conversation deepened, Sujin burst into the room, her demeanor a mixture of calm control and determined ferocity. "What are you two hiding?" she demanded, her eyes narrowing as she gauged the atmosphere. Eugen's heart raced. She was prepared to stand her ground this time. "The truth, Aunt Sujin," she declared, her voice unwavering. "You think that by casting doubts, you can drive a wedge between us? You've underestimated our bond." "We will not be swayed by your tactics any longer." Minho gave Eugen a surprised glance, admiration fluttering in his chest. Her courage planted seeds of strength within him, and he took a step forward. "I will not let your schemes dictate my life or my marriage any longer, Sujin," he affirmed, his voice firm and resolute. "Eugen is my partner, and together we face everything, including you." The tension in the room threatened to snap as Eugen and Minho stood united against Sujin's manipulations. An unexpected weight hung on the air, and for the first time, it seemed as if the true strength of their bond had vanquished the fear that had long clouded Minho's judgment. Sujin's expression morphed into a mix of fury and disbelief, ingredients of vulnerability she rarely exhibited. "You think this will solve anything? This is not just about you. Some battles cannot be faced alone," she spat, an edge of desperation creeping into her voice. But instead of succumbing to her attempts to divide them, Eugen took a deep breath and responded, "We will handle this together, one step at a time. We may have trials ahead, but we are growing stronger. Love requires collaboration, and we are committed to facing the storms, not just for us, but for family too." Realization flickered in Sujin's eyes, the profound connection between Eugen and Minho igniting something beneath her hardened exterior. She had always thought her methods were the only way to protect the family, yet here stood the new generation, ready to forge their path, wrapped in genuine loyalty and love. As Sujin stumbled backwards, emotions spilling into vulnerability she had long buried, Eugen felt a sense of warmth and hope envelop the room. In that moment, she realized that the battle might not end with just this confrontation. The love she and Minho had forged could withstand adversity, emerging stronger against the shadows of their pasts. Weeks later, amid the bustling preparation for their wedding, the emotions swirled like petals in a gentle breeze. Friends and family gathered, united by excitement, shrouded in the warmth of acceptance and renewed love. Minho and Eugen stood hand in hand at the altar, the world around them a vibrant blur. As they exchanged vows, their eyes glistened with determination, firm in the belief that their love would act as both armor and sanctuary against the chaotic world outside. With each promise made, they stepped further into a future woven together, not by obligation or fear, but by heartfelt choice. Emerging after the ceremony, they were enveloped in a sea of laughter and applause, basking in the joy of a new beginning. They had faced the flames of doubt and emerged unscathed, ready to face whatever trials awaited. In embracing their true selves and each other, they had affirmed that love thrives amidst life's chaos, forever blending in the hues of hope, resilience, and a promise for brighter days ahead. So, what did you think of this story full of twists and turns? Do you think Kim Eugen made the right choice by accepting the marriage to Lee Minho? Or do you think she should have taken a different path? Let us know in the comments what you would do in her place. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next stories full of drama and romance. See you next time.